Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Gretchen and today I am here with another Booker Prize Longlist review, and today I'm going to be talking about Flesh by David Szalay. Now this is my second read from this year's longlist, and this is an author that I have never read from before. I went into this book not fully knowing what to expect because I had heard a lot of negative things about it from people that I knew that had read it, and I kind of talked myself out of reading it. It had been on my radar, and once it was longlisted, I was actually, first of all, quite shocked because I had heard so many negative things, and I promised myself that if it did get longlisted, I would read it, even though I really wasn't sure how I would feel about it. I had heard that it was overtly sexual and quite misogynistic, and that the main character displayed a lot of very toxic behaviors and attitudes toward women, and all of those things are typically things that would dissuade me from wanting to pick up a book. However, in the end, I'm really glad that I gave this book a shot, because even though a lot of the criticisms were true on the surface level, I did find that the author gave us a lot more depth to this character, and he ended up providing a very memorable and deeply damaged main character, and this was a really good character book for me. This book is both a coming of age story and also a rags to riches story. It follows our main character Istvan, and he is 15 years old at the start of the book, and at the time that the book begins, he is living with his mother. He's living in poverty. They live in Hungary, and they live in a housing project, and we learn a little bit about him. He seems to be quite awkward. He has friends, but he is a little bit of an outsider. He doesn't really have a male role model in his life, so he's getting kind of like the how to be a man advice from his friends, and they're not always leading him in the right directions or into great situations. And his mom seems to be trying to get him to be a respectable kid, and what she ends up doing is making him help one of the neighbor ladies. She is an older woman. She's in her early 40s, and she has a husband, and his mother convinces him that he needs to help her with her groceries. So he'll walk to the grocery store with her and help her there, and then also walk and carry all of the groceries home for her. Now, I did mention that this neighbor is married, but her husband isn't around too much, and she's kind of depicted in the book as being sad and bored and lonely, and Istvan actually mentioned several times that he doesn't care for her. He's actually kind of repulsed by her, and he doesn't want to help her because he dislikes this woman. And then we get into the story, and this happens very early in the first chapter, so I don't think this is a spoiler, and I will mention it because I do think it could be a deterrent for some people who want to read the book, so I'm okay with talking about it. So one day they're alone in her apartment, and she initiates a physical relationship with him. It started with a kiss, and after a couple more visits, it eventually turned sexual. And I will say that the author did make every attempt to make it seem like it was consensual. She sought consent for everything that happened, but still, he was 15, and it did make me uncomfortable to read, and I did have to kind of think that the laws of consent are different everywhere, and I'm not sure exactly what the age of consent in Hungary in the 80s was, but still, regardless, it just didn't feel right, and it did feel like he was being taken advantage of. So this was a little bit shocking to read in that first chapter, but I will point out that that type of content ends with the first chapter, and the rest of the book was much more digestible. Anyway, they start a bit of a secret relationship with each other, and it eventually ends very, very tragically. And I won't say what happens, but it does not end well for several people, and this event that happens completely changes the course of his life. So the next chapter of the book covers another chapter of his life when he is a little older, and so on and so forth. Each subsequent chapter is following another time jump, and we meet him at a different point in his life, and eventually we cover the duration of his entire life. We follow him as he goes to war, as he moves to London. He starts a career as a security guard and ends up marrying a very wealthy woman, and eventually has a child of his own. And every step of his life is filled with a bit of happiness, but another tragedy is always around the corner for him. And it was a very sad book to read at times. This character did not have an easy life, and even though there was eventually some level of privilege, he was never able to get beyond his roots no matter how hard he tried. And I even think there was a point too where he stopped trying to pretend that he was someone different. He's also a man of very few words, and although he has this tough exterior and he doesn't seem to be fazed, or just tries to seem unfazed by all of the sadness going on in his life, internally he is very lonely, and he craves a sort of intimacy and connection with people in his life that they can't always provide to him. He's constantly making bad decisions, and he very much lives his life off of instinct and just as a means to survive. He's extremely impulsive, and I honestly think that he feels like he deserves all of the terrible things that happen to him in his life. And this character does things throughout the book that make him very unlikable a lot of the time. But I think that Szalay does a great job of getting the reader to understand the character and what's motivating him and why he is doing the things that he's doing. Especially when he touches on how traumatic experiences that you go through when you're young can manifest in different ways throughout your life and impact you years later. And not only that, but how those experiences can influence your own behaviors and affect your relationships and how you interact with people. I thought this novel was a great character study, and I won't go as far as saying that I enjoyed the story, but I do think that this was a worthwhile read. If I did have to give one criticism of this book, though, I would say I think it could have been edited down a little bit. There were some chapters that I feel were necessary to plot, but they did provide us with probably a little more detail than we needed, and they could have been pared down just a little bit. But other than that, I thought that it was a solid read. I don't think that this is going to be one of my favorites from the Booker Longlist, but like I said, I'm glad I read it. It was worth my while, and I definitely think that this is another author that I would give a chance in the future. So that's it. That is the second review done. I'm still making good progress with my reading. I'm just a little delayed with getting the videos filmed and edited and out there for you, but those should be coming soon, and I hope you're all still having a great Booker experience, and until we read again, bye!